Hello and welcome to News Bliss. We are continuing our coverage of the NEET exam paper leak being contested in the Supreme Court. As highlighted in the previous video, the court is trying to establish two aspects. One is whether the exam leak is a systemic problem, that is, a problem in the manner in which the NTA conducted the exam leading to the leak. The other is whether the leak was wider in scope and not just limited to a couple of cities like Patna in Bihar and Hazaribagh in Jharkhand. The Solicitor General's response to the questions raised by the advocates for the plaintiffs were again at best diversionary and incoherent. To cover up the systemic failures of NTA, he used microstatistics of one or two cities as a standard for the exams all over the country, which is bad in law. The solicitor also did not have adequate and clear figures at hand. He contradicted himself often and did not have any sustainable argument in favor of the manner in which NDA conducted the exam. What was clear during the argument is that the irregularities have now occurred in several states, including Rajasthan and Gujarat. The investigation by CBI is going on and will have to extend to other states. No conclusive report can be expected from the CBI anytime soon. A lot of irregularities for which the NTA is responsible came to the front during the proceedings. The irregularities revealed during the arguments include, firstly, two different question papers being given to students. Some were given a question paper held in custody of Canara Bank, while the rest were given those held by SBI. Both the question papers were not the same either, but the answer key provided was for only the SBI distributed question paper. Secondly, 1,536 students were reportedly given a retest, some others given grace marks on unjustifiable grounds. It was a clear case of injustice. The solicitor failed to clearly explain the criteria on which the 1,536 students were given a re-exam and grace marks. He also failed to reveal whether the re-exam was limited to Patna and Hazaribagh or to students across the country. Providing this data would have probably exposed the nationwide systemic failure. Interestingly, of the 1,536 students given the re-exam, only 880 students appeared for it, raising a red flag. Further, the court was told with evidence that the exam centers were mostly private institutions. In Sirkar, Rajasthan, for instance, 48 of 49 centers were private schools. It was also told that students in specific places performed better than in others. This includes Rajkot in Gujarat and Sirkar and Kota in Rajasthan. In Rajkot, for instance, 12 students got over 700 marks, 69 got over 650 marks, 115 got over 600 marks, and 250 students got over 550 marks. Similarly, in Sirkar, 38 students got over 650 marks. All of them are certain to get a medical or dental seat. The other anomaly found was about students registering for exams in not only different places as compared to their true location, but also across states. One girl from Gujarat who scored 39 marks in biology exam appeared for exams in Belagavi, Karnataka, and scored 700 out of 720 marks. There was absolutely no verification of students' addresses, indicating that students were choosing centers where, for reasons best known to them, they were confident that they would pass the exam. This was what was demonstrated by the Belagavi case. Also, there were no set guidelines by NTA regarding submitting the papers after exams. As a result, the answer papers remained with the centers for well over 3 hours. Advocate Huda argued that this gives enough time for tampering with the answer sheets as in Godhra. The city that came into particular focus was Sirkar in Rajasthan. In Sirkar, 27,216 students appeared in 49 centers. Of these 49 centers, 48 were private schools and the invigilators were employees of the schools. This, advocates argued, allowed the exams to be run according to the whims and fancies of the administrators and teachers of these schools. This included possible collusion with the paper leak racket, they claimed. Surprisingly, in the Sirkar centers, a whopping 8,225 students scored above 525 marks, whereas if you get over 600 marks, you are certain to get a medical or dental seat. On an average, 6 students per 1,000 got 600 marks across the nation. What we ask is, in the absence of a comprehensive CBI investigation report, who is to say that these schools and other exam centers across the country are not part of the exam leak racket? The matters argued in the morning session centered on paper leaks and systemic problems and included brain-racking figures. Here is how Justice Pardiwala summarized it all.
Here because of paper leak. There's no escape from the fact that, yes, there has been a
Paper leak.
Is it your argument that the systemic failure which you are talking about now led to paper leak?
No.
So therefore, today we are trying to understand, we are trying to look into to what extent this leak precipitated in the entire country. If it is a case of systemic failure, that stands on a different footing.
Yes.
Because these are two different things. It is because of this paper leak, you are now able to demonstrate before us various irregularities, illegalities. Maybe, you may be right. But at this point of time, digressing from the issue of paper leak, to what extent can we now go into the question of systemic failure? Because we are trying to examine whether this leak led to that girl securing 705 marks at Belaguri despite failing in 12th standard. Let us address the issue in this manner, whether these candidates at Sikar who have performed exceedingly well, is it because of that paper leak?
Lord, I bow down.
There are
I quite understand. These are two compartments.
There are two compartments.
So far as
one talks about paper leak and to what extent the students took advantage of. You come to your note.
Please.
You come to your note, paragraph 8.
Yes, my lord.
That's the heart. That's the heart of your case.
Where you say that there's a leak has gone to other states. Where is there to, what is there any contemporary evidence to indicate that the leak went to other states?
Lord, the only thing on that I can say on paper leak is, Lord, so far as direct evidence of this crime is concerned, that is the file is before this honorable court, matter is being investigated. As petitioners who are not privy to the investigation, either by the Bihar police or now by the CBI, all we can rely on is a circumstantial evidence. In the circumstantial evidence,
therefore falling back on an alternative hypothesis that because of the systemic flaws in the process, therefore the credibility of the examination must have been breached in other
I'm so grateful.
That's your case.
So that's my case. On that, Lord, I have just 4 or 5 things to highlight.
We do not have evidence to show that there was a leak in other states, but because of these flaws in the examination process, therefore it's likely that
this inflation
examination, and you have pointed out 3 aspects: time gap between the conclusion of the examination and the sealing of the OMR sheets, and absence of an SOP. 2, staff at the college may well tamper with the OMR sheets without depositing them. 3, there is no address verification of the center chosen by the student. These are the 3 aspects.
That's right. Now, Lord,
anything else now? What remains?
Because of
we'll have to call upon the others now.
Yes, I'm so grateful. And Lord, it is because of this that there is an evidence, and they maybe put to the question this, that how people from Gujarat going to Bellary, how people from Odisha, Karnataka, Maharashtra coming to Godhra, and how people from Bihar, if this investigation is carried out, my lord, would find people from Bihar have gone to Muktsar, Punjab. If these addresses are checked, that will show that there are...
This girl, instead of going to Belaguri, could have given to any of these centers.
She could have chosen, Lord, probably this is a connection. She got a connection.
Why did she have
I asked you, that center at Belgavi, does it have any, does it show any untoward results?
Lord, it is there. Lord, this Belgavi, this is 8R plus 700 and 71R plus 650.
During the noon session, in response to Justice Pardiwala's question, a strong and pertinent response that covered legal as well as moral issues were put forward by senior advocate Sanjay Hegde. This is what he said.
NEET is used not only as inter-se competition. NEET is also used as a qualification. If you are qualified in NEET, you are not only qualified for the medical colleges at government expense. Many foreign countries also take NEET as you have qualified. It's cheaper sometimes to go to Ukraine and get a medical seat based on your NEET qualification because you have passed the qualifying exam of your country. So the 164 cutoff, which turns to about 13 lakh people, all of them, have they been judged by a fair and equitable standard? And can we, with any sense?
164 out of 720 is a qualifying.
Yes.
Percentile, 50%.
It's the 50th percentile. So exactly half of them. Now, the question is, can we say that among them, everybody got marks which they were fairly entitled to? It is my respectful submission, my lords, that in a competitive exam, you cannot trust a competitive exam which turns out 61 toppers. Inevitably, my lords, in any data cohort, you may have 2 or 3 people who may share marks or who may crack it. My lords, when GMAT and all those exams were held, it is rare that somebody cracked everything, got that 7 perfect
Out of the
score.
61, 44 are those actually who got the marks, not grace marks, but got full marks because of question 9.
Because of one
2
question.
and 4.
But that also means that those 44 got marks for 179 questions right. That itself is a very high figure. Those 44 people, and then couple it with what is called rank inflation. If the syllabus had been made easy, then a rising tide raises all boats together. What has happened is that in that magic zone of above 650, there are more than 50,000 students. This is a huge red flag. Today, my lords, at a stage of incomplete investigation, if your lordships were to say that, look, so far you have shown us only Hazaribagh, Patna, we do not know exactly where it is going. Do we ask a whole host of people, maybe 24 lakh, maybe 13 lakh, maybe 2 lakhs, to rewrite the exam? What if your lordships were to turn us all down and say that, no, they have given adequate justification? What your lordships at today's date will not be aware as to how many cells or how many persons got into the system. And each government seat is a case of the government spending about 1 crore per year per medical student. So at about 25,000 government seats in the general category, my lords, I also represent students who have got 690, 640 and all that. They will get a seat somewhere. But what they are not assured of is that they have got a fair rank. Having taken your lordships through the student perspective, my lords, please look at the institutional perspective. Please look at NTA's constant responses to your lordships. If the NTA had been a serious examination agency, it would have been most concerned about the integrity of the process. But what did it do? On the 5th itself, when it was told that the paper had leaked, and on the 5th, if it had taken a decision that, look, once there is a leakage of a paper, we find it unsafe. And supposing they had taken that decision and we were challenging it, saying, look, it leaked only in one place. How can you scrap an entire exam. Would your lordships have found an outrageous defiance of logic in that decision? I'm turning the question around. The NTA continued to deny the fact that there was a leak. It did not cooperate with the Bihar police. Apparently, the EOU even wrote them letters. They did not immediately cooperate. My lords, there were special circumstances this year. In May and June, everybody was preoccupied with the elections. Nobody was possibly there to guide them. It is quite possible that the administrative agency thought, just let the thing blow over, or let whoever comes in guide us. Continually, they kept denying, and it was only when your lordships asked questions that then came that little thing that yes, we did give grace marks, but we can redo it by a retest for some 1563 students. At that stage also, if they had looked at their own data, if today they have not been transparent, they haven't given the full data. In fact, all the data that Mr. Huda has so painstakingly given your lordships has been after we were served with about 4,500 PDF files. That had to be run through, data had to be extracted, and we can see some hotspots. Whether they are hotspots, whether they are red flags, that is for them to explain. Then, my lords, the NTA continues to be in denial. It's only as late as the 22nd of June that changes are made in personnel and that the CBI is put in charge of the investigation. I do not know what has been there in that report. I do not know whether there is a theory of investigation. But what comes out is that there is an organized gang which has a prior history of leaking papers. It is their business model. And, my lords, when educational excess becomes a business model, the leaked paper is a time-limited commodity. You have it for 2 days or less. You have to maximize profit. And everybody into whose hands it goes, whether it is the paper solver or anybody else, will try to maximize.
Okay, anything else now?
Just give me 2 more minutes, my lords. The fact is that we cannot tell the students that this is a fair exam. We cannot send a signal to the NTA that we approve of what you have done, nor can we tell those who indulge in these practices that, look, you may very well get away with it. Because if these results stand, those post-dated checks may still be cashed. They still have a value. So therefore, my lords, the safer thing to do is, your lordships has already done it. Your lordships has said retest for those 1563. If your lordships were to treat what has happened so far as step 1 of the exams, everybody above 164 had a chance at a medical seat. Those people, give them a re-examination, because your lordships will see from their own affidavit, which Mr. Huda also pointed out, somebody who's got 720 ends up with 640. Let everybody be accurately measured. That's the least that can be done, my lords.
Many other submissions by other advocates were made about the various misleading data provided by the Solicitor General. At the end of it all, the main takeaway is that the re-exam may be ordered for 13 lakh students. 13 lakh students because these students had qualified for ranking in the results, and the minimum qualification marks for consideration in ranking is 164 marks out of 720. This figure of 13 lakh students being re-examined raises a significant question. If 164 marks are taken as criteria, then it amounts to the exam held so far being only a prelim, which is what you have in the UPSC exams. Such an order would now bifurcate the exam into a two-stage exam, a preliminary one and a main one. So in the future, are we looking at a two-stage entrance exam for NEET? Many other submissions by other advocates were made about the various misleading data provided by Solicitor General. At the end of it all, the main takeaway is that the re-exam may be ordered for 13 lakh students. 13 lakh students because these students had qualified for ranking in the results, and the minimum qualification marks for consideration in ranking is 164 marks. This figure of 13 lakh students being re-examined raises a significant question. If 164 marks are taken as a criteria, then it amounts to the exam held so far being only a preliminary exam, such as what you have in the UPSC exams. Such an order would bifurcate the exam into a two-stage exam, a preliminary one and a main exam. So in the future, as part of revamping the whole examination system for NEET, are we looking at a two-stage entrance exam for NEET? What is clear is that the NTA has miserably failed in conducting the exam. The impression given is that of a lackadaisical approach to serious matters, which has become the hallmark of the Modi regime. As far as systemic problems in governance are concerned, we are no strangers to it. The most recent example is the results of the recent general elections. In over 72 seats, there is a mismatch between votes polled and votes counted. To date, the Election Commission has failed to explain these discrepancies. It's high time that all such malpractices and governance failures be firmly addressed. The government is taking no responsibility for any of it and is simply passing the buck on to others. The chairman of the NTA was sacked. But how does that solve the problem? This is a widespread problem involving the NTA and the examination centers. Since it is a widespread systemic problem involving the NTA, the entire governing body of NTA first ought to be taken to task. The scandal is both an indication of their incompetence and possibly an indication of the leak having occurred from within the system. Whichever way the court rules, the interests of students have to be primary. Many of them start preparing for NEET from 8th standards onwards. There are also poor SC/ST students who have qualified and cannot afford to take a re-exam. The centers are often far away from their villages or towns. It is also traumatic for parents. We know that parents are deeply involved in the education of their children and accordingly have to make their own sacrifices. Our hearts go out to all these students and the parents. We earnestly hope that the court's failing is not only just and fair in the eyes of the court, but is also seen to be so in the eyes of the people. What is increasingly evident, and this is our observation, is that a re-exam is likely to be ordered, but not for all the students, but for a certain number of them on the basis of criteria the learned judges feel is legitimate. We'll continue coverage of the proceedings tomorrow as well. So do remember to subscribe to this channel for notifications. Do also give us a like and share the video. We launched this channel just 2 days ago and need all the support we can get.